everyone, RogueGold here, and today I want to talk about how the Division universe is all starting to tie together. Now, before we get any further, I do want to give you a fair warning that this video will contain some light spoilers for Season 11 of The Division 2, which is of course the current ongoing season in-game. So if you have not done the first two targets of that yet, and if you care about what the story of the season is, this won't majorly spoil any big events, but it does reference some things that have been talked about in the comms thus far, so if you want to avoid that stuff, figure I would give you a fair warning. But what I want to focus on in this video is a lot of the debate and conversation lately that I have seen transpire across basically the entire internet, wherever people discuss Division stuff, regarding the things in the comms for Season 11, specifically what has been said about St. Louis and how people are taking that and what they're assuming it to mean for the future of the Division franchise. Because while it is very cool, I think a lot of people are missing what it is actually referencing. So this is not going to be a lore dump video. For those, as always, I defer you to NGN or people who know more about that stuff than me. I enjoy the story, but really, I just have some good knowledge about what this is actually talking about. I've seen a lot of people be confused and incorrect about what it is actually referencing, so I figured I would clear the air and give you guys a bit of a picture for how the Division universe is starting to tie together in some super interesting ways. If you end up enjoying this video, a like would be greatly appreciated, and be sure to click that subscribe button as well as turning on the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos and uploads. Alright, so let's get into this. Season 11 and St. Louis. To provide just a brief recap, if maybe you don't listen to the comms all that closely or you just haven't done it yet, basically what's been happening is that throughout these first two targets of Season 11, there have been a lot of references to these, certain events that took place in St. Louis. Now, of course, St. Louis is not a city that we've really heard about before in the Division world. It's also not one that we've ever visited in the games or as players. So understandably, there's a lot of intrigue and curiosity from the player base as to why we're hearing about this different city that we don't play in. And the basic gist of what's been talked about it in-game is that there was some sort of bombing and attack that took place there, and a lot of the characters that are involved with Season 11 are worried about the ramifications of that, if it could mean anything for what's happening in DC currently, and kind of the misinformation and secrecy that the Black Tusk is trying to employ about the situation to not cause panic within their own ranks. So really the primary reason I wanted to make this video is I've seen a lot of people see that stuff that's happening in-game, and, fairly, it's not an unfair assessment, speculate that we are going to get some sort of DLC for the Division 2 where we go to St. Louis and maybe either see those events take place or just have some general story take place there. At least for now, I do not believe that's in the plans, and that is not what this is actually referencing. What it is referencing is that these are actual events that took place in the Division Recruited novel that came out last year. Now, I won't get into any deep spoilers on that. I will leave a link for it below if you want to check the book out, but it was a new series that they have started of doing these novels, following new characters that are loosely related to the Division 2 story, and yes, indeed those characters went through St. Louis, and there were these events that took place there that are now being referenced in the Division 2. So at a base level, I think it is very cool that we are getting this kind of connection between these two different mediums of storytelling within the Division universe. I haven't seen a lot of other properties do stuff like this. Usually if there are tie-in books or media like that, they will use characters and references from the main game and world, but not usually the other way around. So to see this kind of synergy between the two is really neat, honestly. And the novels are in a very interesting position because of their timeline. It was said in the book and kind of just stated in general that the Recruited novel took place around September or October of given year. I don't think they really give a specific year, but it would be the year after the outbreak, right? So this would imply that the Division 2's timeline is currently heading out of summer, finally, and into the fall, time of year. Could that imply that we might get snow in the future? We'll talk about that in a future video, but that is very interesting. But then what is also interesting is that you have things happening. The sequel book to Recruited was Compromised that came out just a few months ago. That takes place another 6 months into the future, so into April of the following year, and that references events that have yet to happen in the Division 2. I talked about this in some of my Compromised review. I'll leave a link for that in the top corner if you want to check that out, but it all is very interesting, and I think now that we're finally seeing the Division 2 reference the events of this book, it brings into question how much significance and what kind of symbolism some of these things that have been happening in the book really have for the main game and the main canon, and it's super fascinating. So at a base level, I just wanted to clear the air that that is what these St. Louis references in the Division 2 are referring to. It is not about any sort of future DLC tease, at least at the moment. It's referencing these events that took place in the Division Recruited. The other big one that I've seen is a lot of people are saying that they think all the St. Louis talk is in reference to the Division Heartland. People have said they think that it's going to take place in St. Louis now that we've heard about it so much, because I think technically it is within the Heartlands region of the US. It's always been kind of ambiguous there. But anyway, that is also not what this is talking about. I know there is a lot of misinformation and secrecy that goes on about Heartland these days, but it is very well confirmed that the Division Heartland is taking place in a town called Silver Creek, both in the trailer we got at Ubisoft Forward back in September, and also if you go on the Division Heartland's website, you will see it says that it is taking place in Silver Creek. This is a fictional town this time around. It is not one that exists in real life, at least not the one that they are portraying in game. Obviously, that's in contrast to how the Division 1 and 2 handled their real-life depictions of New York and DC. That's less important. The point is that Heartland is not taking place in St. Louis. I do not believe any of these current references we are getting in Season 11 are referencing Heartland, because Heartland is going to take place in Silver Creek, and from my recollection, and I think somebody would have pointed it out by now, we have not gotten any references to anywhere called Silver Creek in the Division 2 thus far. Maybe we will in the future. That would be really cool. I will certainly keep my eye out, but for now, has not yet happened. So that's about all I have for this one, guys. As I said, I just really wanted to try and clear the air and provide some clarification to these recent conversations I've seen happening on Twitter, Reddit, wherever, because I think a lot of people are getting excited for things that are pretty clearly not what the events of Season 11 and these references to St. Louis are implying. So I just wanted to set the record straight so that people really know what to expect. But I do think it is pretty cool that we are getting this kind of synergy and crossover between these novels and the games. And I think overall the coherence of the Division universe is coming together a bit more than we've ever seen in the past. And I think for one, that is pretty cool. Let me know your thoughts on all of this down below. Have you read, recruited, and or compromised? If so, what do you think about some of the events in there that are now being referenced in the Division 2? Do you think it's interesting that they are doing that? Also, what do you think about some of the future events that are teased in there and what it could mean for the Division 2's future story? Whatever your thoughts are on all that or anything else, as always, let me know down below and I will be super curious to read through it. And that's all I've got for today, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Ow.